Morning all. Welcome to another episode of Shared Light with Dusty and JR. I am obviously JR.
And I'm Dusty.
How you doing?
Good, same old.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple weeks. We talked about it last episode, right? We've kind of prioritized mental health, relaxation. If you are watching this on YouTube or whatever else we're on, you may or may not see a dog behind us here in a little bit. She's laying down right now. You might not see her, but yeah, she's in the room with us today because she's very, very pregnant and very, very close to having puppies. So all she wants to do is be near.
She's very clingy to you.
Yeah. So just for context, if you do see a dog in the background,
That's why.
that's why. On another note, we had a lot of stuff going on. We've had a lot of stuff going on, as we mentioned, but we've been actively looking at ways to diversify our podcast a little bit, but really lend it to relationship, our goals, all that stuff. Looking at how it actually ties into having a better marriage and how it relates to some of the topics we've talked about. So my wife did some research, if you want to call it that.
Brainstorming.
And we have been looking at some growing trends, right?
Yes.
One that really piqued our interest is we saw this thing on social media called the soft life.
Yeah, soft life.
Well, I mean, you looked it up. Why don't you let our listeners know what it entails, and we'll kind of go from there.
I think it's just striving to live a slower life overall, finding more peace, just slowing down, setting healthy boundaries. That's part of finding peace or finding more peace. And it really is just this slow life.
Right.
Not the hustle and bustle, not the schedules and deadlines, and everybody's going to have that. But the slow life is more about striving to have more of the slow mornings and the intention of your everyday.
Which we've been talking about that a lot lately, right? Really prioritizing and protecting your mental health.
Yeah.
Part of that. We have been in a lot of discussion here at home about moving away from the hustle and bustle of town, which we don't live in a huge town, but it is huge enough for us.
Yeah. And it's growing like crazy.
So trying to find what you could call a slower paced atmosphere to enjoy some of those slow mornings, being able to read, walks in the afternoon, essentially choosing joy instead of choosing stress, which is interesting and kind of ironic because it is something that we have been striving for the last few weeks with all of the stress and all of the chaos that's happening at home.
Yeah.
Really looking to, for me, work to live as opposed to live to work.
Right. I think we've always kind of, not always, but maybe the last few years have moved more toward that, but really in the last few weeks. But we've always kind of been that way anyway.
Yeah, I think the inherent nature of where I grew up and the atmosphere that we grew up in, you've been here a long time. You were here before a lot of the hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
And it does lead to a quieter, simpler way of doing things that is not so built on rush.
Yeah.
I think everywhere you go now, at least where we live, and people from big cities can attest to this, everybody's always in a hurry to do everything.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to the store, whether it's driving to work, going to visit somebody, there's always some kind of deadline, some kind of time restraint.
Right.
That really just creates stress.
Yeah.
So part of this whole soft life movement is really about understanding and knowing when you can walk away from toxic relationships and toxic environments.
Yeah.
Which is a fascinating idea because there's a lot of positives to it.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
There's pros and cons to everything.
Yeah. I mean, on the positive note, rest is healthy for you. It is, studies have shown that it's good for the heart. It's good for the mind. It's good for the soul.
Yep.
Boundaries are super important, whether that's with relationships, whether that's with work, whether that's with children.
Time.
Again, one that I've been focusing on quite a bit is my mental health. So, self-care matters.
Yep.
We need to make sure that we are able to slow down and improve our mental health. Need to be intentional about taking care of ourselves.
Yep.
Right. But I would venture to say that there are also concerns.
With everything.
Because the flip side to that is I think people can lean into it to avoid anything that's uncomfortable.
Yes, as like a shield.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And this one, I would even venture to say that my daughter gets into a little bit of a mentality of, well, I'm going to quit when it gets hard.
Yeah.
She's getting better about that, but I remember even starting her school this past year. She
Yeah.
was in a class where that she didn't really know anything, and she just didn't want to do it
Yeah.
because it was too hard.
Yep. She didn't even wanna try.
So there's also the other fundamental line issue is that a little bit of stress is good for people.
Yeah.
And one thing that this can lead to is people not wanting to experience stress,
Yeah.
always expecting that everything will be peaceful, so no conflict,
Yeah.
and really only trying to do things that feel good,
Yeah.
which, I mean, I could talk for days about what that leads to, right?
Right. Yeah, I feel like you need to have some of those stressors and, some of those things happen so that that's how you learn a lot of life lessons, not just in life, but in relationships and in your work. That's where you're gonna grow and that's where you're gonna learn.
Yeah, I
Just like
mean,
we talk about in our marriage, our hard times and our struggles is where we have grown the most.
don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about, like, sheer trauma, but a little
No.
bit of stress is
Yeah.
inherently good, and it helps adapt.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to it. So as far as like even boundaries or timelines, deadlines, sure you need to have some of those in your life because that helps you know how to manage time and projects and things like that. But you can also go overboard on that and time track everything and everything's down to a minute, every part of your life and every day down to the minute, a schedule for every little thing that you do. I don't feel like that's healthy either.
Well, and there's something to be said about that because I've made no qualms about on this podcast that I'm a very structured, time-oriented,
Yes.
methodical throughout my day type of guy.
Yeah.
I am very scheduled in how I approach my day,
Yeah.
and if anything upsets that schedule, it throws me
Mhm.
off completely. So, I mean, there's something to be said about having that flexibility within your schedule to be able to shift and adapt.
Yeah.
Getting to a point where you're so rigid and so strictly focused on those guidelines and parameters, I mean, it's detrimental because it is adding undue stress that really you're just putting on yourself at that point.
Yeah. And it
'Cause
doesn't allow you to slow down and enjoy those slower times or even, happy, enjoyable moments because you're always on such a schedule and a time constraint.
So, I mean, the question therein lies apparently it's all over social media. So, why do we think it is so popular?
I think people are burned out.
Well, and we talked about that last episode, right?
People are tired.
I mean, I'm tired. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now
Yes.
outside of just what's happening in your own world.
Mm.
And again, I'm not going to get into the politics or anything like that, but everybody is aware that there's things going on outside of the world that we are not inherently able to control.
Yeah.
So it is leading to financial stress. That's a big one, but that in turn starts leading to personal stress, marital stress. It compounds everything that you're already dealing with in a day to day,
Yes.
but it also drives a lot of negative feelings, I guess. The other side of that is you look back 6 years when the pandemic hit,
Yeah.
and that I think shifted the mentality for a lot of people.
Yeah. Just made them look differently, I think, about life in general.
Yeah. I mean, you think there was not a lot of people that were not touched by the pandemic in some way or another. Whether you believe it was or wasn't is fully your right, but everybody had an experience that came from that. And that
Mhm.
also changed the perspective on, I mean, for sure, it changed the perspective on work.
Yeah.
You look at work cultures
Sure.
now and they're,
Completely
yeah,
different.
completely different. Pre-COVID and post-COVID employee bases. Again, I'm in leadership, I'm in management. I've been with a couple of organizations in this time before and after. And you see that people now really do focus on, I want to be somewhere where I'm making an impact. I want to
Yeah.
be somewhere where I'm going to get paid well.
Yeah.
I want to be somewhere that is going to promote that work-life balance.
Yes.
It's not the same culture that it was before then, when it was, you're working, working, working to make ends meet, to do whatever.
Yeah.
People really saw that they had options, I think, during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then you just look at like the generations coming up after us, they're more inclined to value balance over hustle.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that we run into all the time is you have people in organizations, my age and older, running organizations that were very driven by intrinsic value,
Yes.
but they were very motivated by wanting to do a good job, wanting to, move up in a company, wanting to, all of these things that help drive this narrative of moving up the corporate ladder, yada, 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 all that stuff, right? And you have people coming in now that they want to make decent money and have good vacation that they can experience the world.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about dedicating your life to an organization. It's about
Well,
doing what you are going to do to make your life better.
that's what I was going to say. I think the difference is that, our generation and before was so much about this is just what you do. You put your all into your work and your company and what you do, and that is your value in life. That's what gives you that value. You're a hard worker and you're committed and you're loyal. And now I feel like it's shifted and it's more the value is coming not from work, but from what you make out of your life,
Yeah.
whether it be at home, in your relationships, who you are, what you're doing. That's more the focus nowadays rather than the work that you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, you're not tied to your career anymore
Mm-hmm.
the way
Yep.
past generations were.
Yep.
Even myself, I find that drives a lot of my motivations is wanting to do just a good job. But I have to consistently remind myself that not everybody is of that same mindset. And
Yeah.
as the generations change, generationally, they have different set of values, different set of beliefs, different set of things that motivators that drive their aspirations in where they're headed in life.
Yeah.
The scary thing about that is that some organizations are very much stuck in status quo, and you start running into issues with turnover, employee
Yep.
absenteeism, just toxic work environments, toxic cultures at work. So, but again, that's another topic for another episode. Really, this is just highlighting what is driving this soft life.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest one that has really come into the limelight over the past I would say 5-ish years is people being really more open about talking about mental health.
Yes.
It was a very taboo subject. I remember when I was growing up,
Yep.
but now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is, again, that could be both good and bad.
Yeah. I think it's good. I think there's been a huge movement the last 10, 15 years of people being able to not just address it, but openly talk about it and have others to relate to that are going through the same thing. And that part of it is a good part because you don't have to hold it in. You don't have to keep it to yourself all the time. And that creates stress. That creates a whole world of things that are not good.
So to continue on the subject, and I find this one a little bit fascinating because it is very counterintuitive to how I operate, because I feel like everybody needs adversity. Everybody needs some kind of challenge in their life. A little bit of stress never hurt anybody. However, I do see the value in at least the good aspects of this lifestyle, right? I would agree that there is a difference between rest and laziness.
Yeah.
Because you should allow yourself time to rest. I am very conflicted on that part because there are times when I am resting or trying to just deal with whatever I'm dealing with, but I feel very guilty.
Yeah.
Because
you feel lazy.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm being lazy.
Right.
I would say that the idea of setting boundaries is very healthy. Being able to say no, being able to
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
That was a hard one for me most of my life.
And they're necessary for your mental health, for your own well-being. You get to a point where you're not able to say no or set those boundaries, and you're taking on other people's problems that you have no business taking on sometimes.
Yeah.
And therapy is helpful. We've put my daughter into therapy. Dustie's done some therapy. I mean, it's a helpful tool, and it's not something that should be stigmatized by any means. Although, I mean, those are all things that I would agree with.
Yeah.
Spending time with family is crucial. I would say it's crucial.
One of our most important for us personally.
And now I would say that I wonder if I could change one thing I guess I don't even wonder. I have changed a few things in my life that I feel like are making me happier and healthier, right? I think back, though, as I'm thinking on this subject right now, how different my life would have been if I would have allowed myself to do that, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Would we be where we're at? Would we be further along? Would we be further behind. It's an interesting conundrum, but you have to ask, what's one thing that you can change or that you have changed
Yeah.
that truly makes your life better?
Yeah.
I think the biggest one for us has been that intention that we have and the boundaries that we've set,
Yeah.
not just with each other, but with where our marriage lies versus everything else around it.
Right.
But it took me a while to learn that,
Yeah.
for sure. Because for me, for the longest time, I'm of that generation where, all we got to work. You got to work to get anywhere in life. You got to work to.
Yeah, work was the priority, and then you just kind of built your life around that. And so if something that you've known your whole life and you were taught or you're shown, or that's what we grew up in, that's what everybody did, it's hard to look at something different, especially something that's opposite of what you know, which the soft life is opposite of that. It can be looked at as laziness, or you don't have to do these things or be this way, and that's a hard thing to transition when you only know one way or one perspective or one outlook.
And I would venture to guess that a lot of people our age, which I'm not going to date myself on here, but for those of you that know, share a very similar mindset.
Yeah.
I see it all the time in the organizations that I work in.
Yeah. And I don't think I think for us, we didn't really realize it or navigate towards it until we started seeing how much it changed for us once we started implementing some of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we were like, oh, yeah, especially for me, and just setting boundaries and saying no and to people or things. Or once I started doing that, I had a lot more personal freedom or a lot less stress on myself. And I had a lot more time to put into our family and our life and our marriage.
So then the question then becomes, where can it go too far? Because there is a lot of pros to it. I mean, we're talking about a lot of them right now.
Yeah.
But then we run into some of those issues that also come up in marriage, right? Are you avoiding difficult conversations because you don't want it to be hard? Are you quitting something too quickly because you don't want to face adversity, have difficulty? Is there a point when you protecting your peace becomes an excuse?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And like I said, you can't have the growth unless you go through the hard time.
and we've talked about,
Unfortunately.
we've talked about that just in the gym, right?
Yeah.
We have to psych ourselves up into we can do hard things because I'll be honest, sometimes those sessions, they don't feel good,
No, and you don't feel good after.
but you do it to grow and you do it to get better. And over time, your body does adapt and you do see the gains.
Yeah.
But, ask yourself, have you ever avoided something because it felt uncomfortable?
All the time, yeah. I mean, nobody wants to do what's uncomfortable. I don't think that's your first go-to is like, yeah, let me go do this because I know it's going to be hard and I know it's going to be super uncomfortable.
But again, it's that difference in mindset of,
Yeah.
I guess you're choosing comfort over peace. So what is the difference? Something could be comfortable.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily good for you.
Yeah.
Because comfort generally means that it's very easy, very familiar,
Yep.
and very safe,
It's safe. It's your safe zone.
which is not where we adapt and move forward and get better.
Right.
I would contrast that by saying that peace is not necessarily easy, but it can exist during difficult situations.
Yeah.
It comes from knowing who you are, and it does not depend on the circumstance.
Yeah. Circumstances that you're in.
So that is something that we have relearned recently, is that particularly in our case, to tie it back into what this podcast has been for,
Yeah.
marriage can be extremely hard sometimes.
Yes.
You will have your hard seasons.
Yeah.
But you can still be at peace.
It's still peaceful.
Healing from painful situations. We've talked about how I've hurt her or she's hurt me, but we're still at peace.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at peace, maybe not in the moment,
Yeah.
but we sought peace from it.
Right.
Parenting, for you parents out there,
Yeah.
you know that it can be exhausting. You know that it can be difficult, but it is the most peaceful thing that you do in life to see your kids grow.
Yeah.
Which nobody tells you how hard parenting is going to be. Everybody likes to tell you about how great it is and how.
Yeah.
And it is. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the most amazing thing that I will ever do in life.
Yeah.
But that does not make it any less hard.
No.
So again, to tie that back into where we are today, I'm in a very not soft season right
Yeah.
now. Stresses with extenuating circumstances of some things that I got going on, finances, a dog in the background who's ready to have some puppies. And through it all, I have remained peaceful, and I have remained of the mentality that this is meant to teach me something. And just like there are highs, there are lows, and they're all temporary.
Yep.
To your point, it can't rain all the time.
Right. That's what I say.
So on the other side of this, it'll be something that I'm thankful that I didn't just give up and go do
Yeah.
my first inclination of things to go do when things get hard.
Right.
Looking at how I have also shifted this opportunity into setting some boundaries around some things, I think has also helped me at least. And I don't want to get into too much, but it is something that is a continual challenge, and you're going to face challenges throughout your life as they come up. Life will life.
Yep. Always.
But the biggest takeaway is that there's always a rainbow at the end of the rainstorm. Is that how the saying goes?
Yeah. It just you come out of it, even if it's not 100 times better, you at least come out of it with a lesson. You learn something and you can grow from it. 2 years ago, I was probably in one of the worst times I ever been in my mental health. And now I think like if I wouldn't have gone through it and grown from it, there's so many lessons in that from so many things that I learned and had to work through just in my relationship with our kids and my relationship with you. And it helped me to understand myself better. It helped me to set boundaries with other people and myself. So it may not be 100% better. It may not be 100 times better than it was before, but I have a lot that I've taken from it and I've learned from it and things that I'm growing and learning from it.
Well, and I would say that whether you want to look at it from that lens or not, but a lot of the conversations that we've had since then would not have happened if you would have not entered that space.
Right.
We would
Yeah.
not be sitting here having this conversation right now if you had
No.
not been in that space.
We probably wouldn't have 90% of the conversations that we have now.
But I mean, not to say that that is great that you went through it or anything, but to your point, there is something to be taken from everything that you go through in life. And again, our situation right now will pass, and it'll be something that we learn from, and it'll be something that ultimately will make us better in the end, one way or another.
Yeah.
Whether that means we'll have a stronger family life, maybe not financially, but we know that through this, we've gotten tighter as a family. We're doing more with the kids. We're spending more time with them. We're talking to them more openly about things that are going on.
Mhm.
And they have responded in a way that has been positive.
Yeah. So that might be the lesson.
We've also really leaned into our extended family that we're really close with and built those relationships and worked through those relationships more. And I would say have been more intentional about those as well, the more we get stressors coming in from the outside. It's kind of that circle the wagons
Mhm.
motif that you see where you're getting attacked from outside and now it's time to just take care of your own for a minute.
Yep.
But to get back to the conversation, I mean, I would ask, what does peace look like for you?
I think peace for me is just a feeling of knowing, even if it's hard, even if it's good, even if it's safe. It's still safe for me. And that's my peace is that you're still safe, we're still safe, the kids are safe. It's our foundation in our life is safe. And that's what brings me peace, even when it's level 10 hard. What does it look like for you?
I would say for me, it looks like, I mean, a lot of the same. That you and the kids are healthy, that you and the kids have a roof over your head, that knowing no matter what comes down the line, I have a,
Yeah.
and again, I lean into that. I know that this is temporary. So just having that understanding for me gives me peace,
Yeah.
even when I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
So the other side of that would be, do you think our culture avoids discomfort?
I think so. I mean, it's hard to say overall, but like I said before, nobody's going to choose the discomfort. And so I think people avoid it as much as they can. They would rather avoid it than go through it and learn the lesson.
I think culturally, and again, I'm not big on politics, I'm not big, but just culturally, and I even look at it like with my kids, we have conditioned generations after us to not have the same experiences that we have had.
Yeah.
Whether that's because we think we're making things better, or in my case, I don't want my kids to see the same struggles that I had.
Yeah. Yeah, because it doesn't feel good to go through hard times. And so I don't think anybody wants that for their kids.
So I think and I'm not blaming anybody, or I'm not by any means stating that anybody is wrong. I just think that generationally, parents and generations have a tendency to promote that as they just grow. Like, you're always my driver, always, always. I want to make sure that my kids have a better life than I had.
Yeah.
Not that I had a bad life or a bad childhood,
Yeah.
but that is irrelevant. I still want them to have a better life than I had.
Right.
And I think if you casually think about the relationships and the people in your life, a majority of those people have that same mentality. They don't want you to have the same struggles. They don't want you to worry about what it feels like to be hungry, what it feels
Yeah.
like to have to go out and work or do whatever to make ends meet, or have to worry about having hot water, whatever the situation is.
Yeah. And that's hard because you don't want that for them, but you also want them to learn the lessons from that.
Right.
Like, we want them to learn the lesson without having them go through it. And I'm bad about that because I don't want my kids to hurt and I don't want my kids to feel a certain way.
Yeah, it's that old adage. You don't know what getting burned feels like unless you get burned.
Right. But I don't want them to get burned.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's, again, I don't think it's something that culturally we do, like, to say or to build a generation that is soft.
Yeah.
I think, and I've heard it said, whoa, what is that? Hard times lead to hard men. Hard men build soft times build, or something like that, right? Essentially stating that when you go through hard things, you create that adversity, you build all of that and adapt to all of that. You create a world that is not like that anymore. But in turn, you change your world into one that doesn't have any of those hard times. So people don't understand what it is to have that.
Right.
And they in turn end up creating that hard time. And I think, that happens without you even realizing it, I think. And you could probably I'm sure you could look at studies that show the way societies ebb and flow that way. But,
Yeah.
I think about it just when we talk about like some of the meals that your grandma used to make you
Hmm.
and how off the wall they were. But then you think back, and she was a product of like being a child and during the Depression when they could only eat certain things and do certain
Right.
things. So they had to
Use what they had.
figure it out. And that in turn led to the generation after where they're not eating any of that. They're eating better meals. And so it's an interesting dynamic, but I do think that most people look to avoid discomfort.
Yeah.
Again, I see it in industry. I see it at work. I see it just in the way some things happen. People avoid conversations because they don't want to make somebody mad. They don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. They don't want the
Yeah.
conflict. They don't want all of the negatives associated with that, even though the eventual outcome is probably going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, it will be.
But it's, again, one of those things where I don't think a soft life is inherently a bad thing.
No, I think there just needs to be balance.
Yeah. It's not necessarily that when you're at peace, there are no problems, because you can be at peace even with all the problems in the world.
We're at peace, but we're going through a hard time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're still at peace.
And you've touched on it quite a bit. Growth happens in the most uncomfortable seasons. That's when you adapt. That's when you learn. That's when you are
Well,
willing to do what you got to do to build that resiliency.
yeah.
And rest and resiliency can exist together.
Yep.
You can be resilient and be at rest.
Yep.
So to just end my thoughts here, I would say that, again, this soft life is not an inherently bad thing. And really, I'm speaking to people in my generation, right?
Yeah.
Because
That have grown up knowing the complete opposite.
right, because I am the one that has also look at my little brothers and how different their mentalities are versus mine.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the generation difference right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not inherently bad what they do. It's just different. They have a different mindset. They grew up with different values, different perspective on life. A healthy life isn't about avoiding hardship necessarily, but it's about having the tools to navigate it, support it, understand how to get through it,
Yep.
and leaning into slowing down and prioritizing the things that give you peace
Yeah.
is not a bad thing.
No. I think it's important to kind of how we've shifted our life and our focus. There's going to be hard times. It's just inevitable. They're going to come, they're going to go. But the main foundation of it is, I mean, I feel like we do lead a soft life, in those times that in every aspect that you can slow down, be intentional, like we always say. That's what's going to help you through the hard times, the difficult times, the hardships.
Yeah, I would venture to say that a soft life is something you should aspire to when things get hard
Hmm.
because it does keep you intentional. It does keep you grounded.
Yep.
It does help you prioritize the things that are important.
Yep.
And when things are looking up is when you should actively pursue those harder times, that conflict, those stressors, those things that
Mhm.
will help you adapt and get better and grow. And I've been telling it to my beautiful wife for the last few days. Maybe everything that we're going through, everybody says that as you start to level up, things get really hard right before you level up. So maybe that's what this is,
Yep.
and maybe not. But at the end of the day, we still have each other. We still have the kids. We still have everything that is important in our life, and material things come and go. We are at peace with where we are in life right now. And that's the most important.
Yep.
So hopefully you guys got some value from this conversation. If you have not read up or seen a lot on this soft life trend, I do encourage you to do your own research. I leave you with a question of what do you guys think it is to have a soft life, and do you see value in it? So with that, I wish you all a blessed week. Please keep sharing your light, and we will catch you on the next one.